Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm glad to welcome you and to welcome as well my colleague, Madam Elena Papadimitriou, and Mr. Massimo Andolina, President, Region Europe for Philip Morris International. This is going to be a talk about business, national, regional, and global business, most probably.
And not only business.
Not only business, but different aspects of it as well. Mr. Andolina, before proceeding, I wanted to let you know briefly who we have to deal with right now. He is a key person, the way I see it, and a rather interesting personality as well. I have already ended up with this conclusion, especially because he's not a usual case, a usual example for the leaders that we have in mind about global, about multinational groups. He's a person who has worked as well in the production line, and it makes it very different in my eyes. He has been the person for PMI who managed to conclude, to overcome the obstacles of the transition from the old product, the old market, what we all know as cigarette in a word, to the heat, which is the new product, the new era for Philip Morris International, a new habit as well for millions, if not billions, of people all over the world. Mr. Andolina comes from Palermo, Sicily, his origin. I was happy to find out that he enjoys very much Arachova and the place around us, Delphi as well, because it reminds of his, it reminds to him of his homeland, and architecture-wise, mostly, correct, yes. Mr. Andolina, Massimo as well, loves, I found out, this is my own secret, he loves ties, like the red one he's wearing right now. So my first question would be, quite simple, I should say. Do you believe in management with a tie or without a tie, Mr. Andolina?
I don't think the tie changes anything in the type of manager that you have. It is as if I were asking you, do you believe in a woman leader with the shoes or without the shoes? I think the tie doesn't change anything. I like ties. I think if you have a suit on, a suit without the tie would be like a meal without the wine. So in the morning I like to open the drawer and pick the tie that fits my mood that day, and that doesn't change what kind of leader I am.
Okay. Now let's talk about business.
Shall we?
Okay. Because last December, Papastratos launched an open invitation looking for 300 engineers to join PMI's production lines in Greece. Sounds great. Still, it is surprising. Why? Because we all know that the European industry is moving to Asia for good. Therefore, do you believe that PMI is playing against the odds?
I think PMI is investing in Europe, and I think what we're doing in Papastratos is the evidence of this. And this is not only from now, but is since many years. So the 300 people that we announced in Papastratos in December is part also of a new plan of investment that then I had the pleasure to announce in February, where we're going to be investing another 200 million euros in Greece, which takes our total investment in Greece over the past 6 years to 700 million euros. So these are facts. Our investments go all over the world. We are an international company. We do a variety of things around the world. We produce many of our electronic devices in Asia. But there are things for which Europe is a leader. Papastratos has been a leader in the cigarette business for many, many, many years. To manufacture our heat sticks, I think the capabilities, the competencies, the expertise, and the leadership is here. And so what better place to put the investment?
Talking about Greece, most of us think of our own country as, let's say, a small or a regional market or something that's not necessarily in the epicenter for the multinational groups, for the multinational business. How come you have decided that Greece is a place where you should invest 200 million euros?
Papastratos and Greece have been an important place to do business for us for many, many years. And therefore we don't see this as a secondary or marginal environment, actually quite the opposite. And I think Papastratos has proven it over the years. This was the second factory in the world that we converted entirely with our first investment in 2017 of 300 million to fully dedicated to the smoke-free products. Why? Because we believed in the capabilities of the people that we have here. We believe in their ability to develop and deliver these new products, but also because we believe in the pragmatic approach that there is in Greece towards new venture and in the good conversation and collaboration that we also have with the Greek government.
Allow me to ask also, because I know that you personally support very much the idea of sustainability. To me, it also has to do with sustainability, because sustainability, in my eyes, becomes more difficult as a task when you're talking about a smaller market, a secondary country. You have to do many things at the same time. New products, new industrial lines, but then again, sustainability at the same time in this country, which is not the most progressed one, I should say, at this field. Does it worry you? Does it make you think sometimes that maybe the investment in Greece could be questioned?
No, not at all. Actually, in Greece, through certain challenges that we have met related to sustainability, we took those challenges to develop actually solutions. One of the challenges that we had for the new products was how much water you need to make those products. And when we were confronted with that challenge, we went and redesigned our process of manufacturing in Greece in order to make the products with 1/10 of the water that were in our initial process. And that became the standard that now we're applying all over the world. So the fact that you go in a place and there are challenges actually can be the beginning of a new solution.
We observed a core and substantial change in PMI's products, accompanied by a major change in the internal operations of the company and in practices of the company. A new culture, cultura, come si dice in Italiano and in Greek, regarding responding to current challenges regarding public health or inclusivity. I wonder if such a transition could ever happen without this ethical dimension.
Without the ethical dimension. I think what is happening right now for us, and that has been happening since our Greek CEO launched the transformation of the company, is that this instilled a tremendous sense of purpose in everyone in the company. The ability with the new products to change the lives of millions and millions of people that smoke, that cannot or are not capable to quit, but they want to adopt a better product, and the impact that we can make on their lives, on their health, has generated a sense of purpose in everyone in the company that is allowing us to overcome difficulties that are enormous, because we have had to transform our products, what we make. We've had to transform our ability to engage with a variety of people that may be friendly or may be hostile to us, and bring the story, the vision, and the mission of what we want to do to each and every one of them. We've had to transform what we are able to do internally and learn what we were not able to do. And therefore, going from a company that makes large quantities of goods to a company that is capable to engage with each individual consumer and convince him or her to quit smoking and adopt better products, better habits. And without an enormous and strong sense of purpose internally, doing all these things together and doing the things that you were referring to on sustainability would be impossible. But this is what is driving every person at Philip Morris today. Is it difficult? It is difficult. But I think it's in the DNA of each and every one of us at Philip Morris that when it's difficult, we actually get going.
Okay, from business to the real world, real life again now. I've seen you last night in the center of Arachova, at the restaurant and bars where everybody else, most of us, were last night. And I'm sure you've noticed that many Greeks are still smoking. A lot, actually. When do you believe Greeks will get rid of of the cigarette?
And
will it be in our lifetime or not? This is a question.
It will be within our lifetime. And I think Greece, in this sense, can be one of the first countries in Europe that can declare smoke-free. We believe that if things continue to go as they are going, with a pragmatic support of the government that looks, though, at science, at facts, there is a possibility to make Greece smoke-free by probably as early as 2030. We know that today there are about 2.5 million people smoking in Greece. There are 500,000 that have already switched to smoke-free products. There is no reason why, with also the new approach that the Greek government has taken, embedding harm reduction as one of the policies to be able to accelerate the exit from cigarettes, there is no reason why in the next 7-8 years we could not take Greece to smoke-free. This can be done. And we have seen it in other countries in Europe.
Such as?
Such as, for instance, I'll give you a case of a country that has started a much longer time ago, Sweden, where they didn't start with HEETS and IQOS because they were not available. But Sweden already in '92 was using products like snus, tobacco that you put in your mouth. The government supported that product. The EU banned that product. When you look at how the smoking prevalence in Sweden has gone, today the smoking prevalence in Sweden is the lowest at all in all of Europe. They've gone from 20+% smoking prevalence to only 5.6% that smoke today. The interesting thing on such a long time sequence is that you can go and check also what is happening with health. And today, the health diseases associated with smoking in Sweden are the lowest in all of Europe. What we need to ask ourselves is, when we see governments that are skeptical about alternatives as a way to reduce the harm that is generated from tobacco, what we need to ask ourselves is, but then what? If we don't do this, then what? We only leave the option to smokers to continue smoking, because we know that people that smoke don't stop so easily.
And this is why you are talking about the need for a balanced approach to regulation as a key element. But how can we accelerate this?
We can accelerate collaborating among the various parts of society that have a role to play in this. And evidently, regulators, scientists, politicians, industry, they all have a role in this. In this sense, I praise what is happening in Greece, where the government has said, first and foremost, let's stop everyone from making claims that are not substantiated. Let's go look at the science, let's go look at the technology, let's go look at the data, and then we will decide which ones convince us and allow us to make those claims part of our law and public. That is the first step. But there is another thing that we advocate, and we know that the Greek government agrees, that is, once we have done that, let's go validate in real-life evidence what is happening. Let's look at the data from the hospitals. Let's look to see if those claims are actually resulting into an impact on health society, the society, in the health of the people that are supposed to benefit from this. In this sense, Greece is not a marginal, as we were saying before, country in Europe. It's actually the leading country in Europe that is the first one that has embedded tobacco harm reduction policies into its law, and that has the power at this point to inspire a variety of other countries in Europe to take a more pragmatic and science-based approach towards tobacco regulations.
Okay, so you're happy with Greece, more or less. You're happy with Sweden as well, I guess, the way it goes. Still, I just found that in my notes that in Europe there are many disparities in smoking incidents. For instance, France, 24%, UK, 14%, and Belgium, 26%. And they're not supposed to be less progressive as societies or as countries than Greece. How come you have those kind of differences?
These are the cases in the three different countries are pretty different cases. I think the case of the UK is the case of a country that actually recognizes the role that alternatives have to play. And in the case in particular of the UK, the government promotes actually the switch to products like e-cigarettes that are a reduced risk product. and therefore they promote for consumers to move to e-cigarettes, and we have seen in the UK a reduction in the smoking prevalence that has been driven by this. The case of France is a different case. In France, a number of measures that have a role to play, like plain packaging, like limiting communication on tobacco products and branding exercises, like graphical health warnings, like extreme taxation as a way to increase the price and reduce access for consumers, have been implemented. Unfortunately, what we have seen is that the impact of those measures is minor. And actually, in the particular case of extreme taxation, when you look at the prices of cigarettes today in France, they passed by far the 10 euros. What that creates is other inequalities, inequalities of people in the lower socioeconomic strata that want to continue to use nicotine products and that cannot afford them anymore, and they go look for them in the black, in the illicit market. And today in France, almost 1 out of 2 cigarettes consumed in the lower socioeconomic strata is an illegal cigarette. And that's why...
dangerous, eh?
And they are dangerous, and they go to fuel criminal activities, and they generate a loss of revenues for the government. So I think what we need to do is, many of the regulations that are present in places like France or Belgium are regulation for tobacco control that literally belong in another century. They were developed when science, technology did not give access to alternatives, and therefore there were some of these measures that were semi-prohibitionistic measures put in place, and they were coming with a variety of side effects. Today, alternatives exist. I think if we refuse to look at the power of alternatives today, it would be like saying that we, in order to reduce the carbon emissions, decide to start banning cars rather than giving people access to electric cars or new fuels or new ways of mobility. We need to evolve in our thinking on regulation for tobacco like we have done in other sectors of life.
I think that you mentioned tobacco harm reduction, and that is a part of your plan to tackle smoking, but can we prove that it is already making a difference indeed?
Look, we started with this journey back in 2016. And the real-life evidence is already appearing, especially in the places where we launched first. If we look at Japan, Japan was a country that historically had cigarette volumes that were declining 1 to 2% a year. Since the introduction of smoke-free products in Japan, IQOS de facto, that rate has multiplied by 5. The cigarette volumes have started going down in the range of 9 to 10% a year. The interesting thing about Japan is that studies conducted by the Japanese government themselves show that now, 7, 8 years after the introduction of those products, the admissions to hospital for pulmonary diseases associated with smoking is also starting to come down. And this is what I was saying before about Sweden. The evidence is there. The moment that you move people out of products that burn and you move them into product without smoke, you start seeing an impact on public health. Today we see it in Sweden. Not only the smoking prevalence has come down, but the rate of mortality due to smoking is the lowest in Europe. Will we see it in the other countries? Yes, when we start measuring, we will see it. And that's why the approach of Greece, for instance, and the desire to start conducting clinical trials, to start measuring morbidity and mortality in Greece as a consequence of this, is particularly important in order to find the epidemiological evidence in some of the policy actions that have been taken.
So, can I take the time, a few seconds for an extra one? Okay. Talking about less harm, what about from the reduction to the zero? What's the distance? Is that a vision? Can it be realistic? The zero harm in the future at some point? Can it be? Can it happen?
There is no activity in human life that is zero harm. But if we say zero smoking of cigarettes, it is realistic. And that is what each of us at Philip Morris committed to when Andrei Kalantzopoulos in 2016 said, we commit to phase out cigarettes. This is what we're working for. How soon? We believe it can be achieved in the next 10 to 15 years, but not us alone. This does require that many members of society come together to want to do this. But it's possible. In the next 10, 15 years, it's possible. Consider that in Japan, we have taken to this point about a third of the people out of smoking. About a third. And it's not even 10 years that we have launched there. So it is possible.
So do it like Japan. Okay.
Or like Greece is doing.
Like Greece.
Well.
Thank you, Mr. Andolina.